Hope this works. Welcome to Crowdfunding Countdown, where people will try to sell you anything, even if it's ridiculously dumb. Like this D20 that gives you a 50% chance of rolling a 20 and 50% chance of rolling a 1. You succeed gloriously or you die. You know what else gives you a 50% chance? A coin. It's a coin flip, where you don't have to pay $23 Canadian to get it to your door. It's also less fun than having a special D20 that only rolls 20s that you could pull out for a party trick. This is it's just a coin. But that's what you get when you browse through the annals of Kickstarter and GameFound and BackerKit and Indiegogo and Mom and Dad Give Me Money for My Startup.com/CreedThoughts. All of the lucrative places I have scoured to bring you the cream of the crop, or at least the crop, of what's ending this week on crowdfunding in the board gaming space. And this episode is brought to you by my patrons. As always, thank you to all my patrons for supporting the channel, and a special shout out goes out to our newest patron, Carl. Thanks for jumping on board, Carl. It really means the world. You're so much better than all of those other ingrates watching. But seriously, I always like to start off these videos by thanking my patrons for forcing me to continue to do this series. I appreciate your support enormously, and every single one of you is the best person I have ever known in my entire life. So let's get into the games this week, but I warn you, none of them look very fun. There's a weird fine print aspect of them where if you back any of them, somebody will come to your house and punch you in the eye, which I don't understand why they've all adopted that as one of their stretch goals, but here we are. No, there's a couple of fun ones. There's a whole crap load launching tomorrow, which in order to get ahead on, we're going to extend the day of every crowdfunding countdown by 1 day, so that when I'm away in Vegas, hopefully you won't even notice. We're working with a new mic this week, so let me know how it is. Anyway, first up this week, we've got a game called Dinoverse, where you take on the role of two dinosaurs in the same herd, either a carnivore or an herbivore, maybe one of each, maybe two of a single type. And immediately I've got a problem with this theme. This is exactly why you don't just invite anyone to game nights, Brontosaurus. Haven't you learned your lesson? Why are you and the dinosaur that is trying to kill you, why are you all traveling in the same herd? Don't you think you would have moved by now? I'll tell you what my girlfriend keeps telling me, it's okay to see other people. But not like this. Not like this. Anyway, there'll be two types of dinosaurs. They're all going to be in this herd, flipped face up, face down, etc. And you're going to have two dinosaurs as well, and you're going to choose which one is face up and which one is down, because every dinosaur has a unique scoring condition. Usually herbivore scores, or the herbiscores, are related to the amount of dinosaurs in the herd at the end of the game, and then the carnivore scores are related to the number of dinosaurs in the discard pile, aka the ones that they've chomped down on. They want to thin out the herd and really make everyone go extinct. And the goal of the game is to have the most points with the dinosaurs that you have at the end, but you can switch out your dinosaurs constantly. So if you don't like being a carnivore, you can swap it out into the herd for an herbivore, but then you also have to activate that carnivore's ability because it's entered the herd. Every dinosaur also has an ability which can basically manipulate their place in the row, and usually it's about eating or attacking or growing or whatever. It doesn't seem like a bad game, but I feel like it might overstay its welcome a bit, especially if you just get to the point where everybody trades in their dinosaurs at the end of the game when they realize that the carnivores aren't winning or the carnivores are winning. They just swap out so that they're holding on to that specific carnivore. That's my worry with this game. I worry the ending could be a little bit anticlimactic, or you spend so much time investing in a strategy and then somebody just sweeps in and gets a better card because they turned up a card where every dead body was worth 3 points instead of your 2 points you've been working so hard towards for the rest of the game. It's not super expensive though. It's 18 bucks US, 9 bucks shipping, 30 something Canadian to get to my door. And it seems okay, it just doesn't really interest me that much, but if that interests you, check it out. That finishes Wednesday, September 7th at 12 a.m., aka Tuesday night. Now next up we have a game called Carked, which bills itself as a hilarious game about death and dying. Because what's funnier than death and dying? Anyway, the reason why I kind of wanted to cover this is that the company profile on Kickstarter says that they are committed to stopping ageism. That's kind of their company mandate. And I completely agree with this mandate. The love of my life happens to have an age, and we don't like it when people bring up our age difference, do we, my darling?
Love lifts us up where we belong.
That's what I call an angel of music.
Oh, that's what I call a phantom of the opera.
Oh, Maggie. Anyway, the game is almost a game. You have 4 rounds. You randomly find out how you're going to die. Then people are going to pitch to you how you're going to spend your last day, and then what happens after that when you're dead and gone. It's kind of a less fun snake oil. Sorry, that's not a game comparison here. That's how I'm going to die, in a vat of less fun snake oil. The knockoff snake oil game being melted down for copyright infringements. This is why you do not lean over ledges. I thought I had established that rule, but clearly I'm going to break it in the near future. And then the fourth round is a eulogy. And honestly, I think this might be the best part about this game. Because damn it, nobody says nice things to my face, and I want to find out what people think. And so fake a funeral, you're saying. Well, no, I did that, and when I faked the funeral, everybody must have gotten the memo that it was fake, because nobody showed up. And I can only assume that's the reason, because they knew it was a hoax and not the other reason. I'm sure it was the first one. And so I couldn't hear the nice thing that people said about me then, so dang it, let's have a eulogy right now so you can tell me how much I love you before my skeleton doesn't care anymore. And this feels like a nice excuse to do that, you know? Although I will say I've already won this game. I know they have not included my cause of death or what's going to happen at my funeral in these cards. And to be fair, if they did, it would be an automatic winner. Legitimately, when I die, I want to be either taxidermied or like strung up on strings, right? Like animatronic sort of strings. Now I know you have rigor mortis, and so like the bones might be cracking or something, but I want to be like waving to everybody as they come in. Just put some sunglasses on me so people don't freak out, like Weekend at Bernie style it. But yeah, I really want people to be able to like put me in a Hawaiian shirt. I want people to be able to take pictures with me. Like I want it to be a party. You know what I mean? I want there to be color. I want people to have fun. Maybe I'll broadcast some messages. Hey, actually, this YouTube video could double duty as that. So, hey everyone, thanks for coming to my funeral. I loved board games, so please help yourself to my board game collection. Yes, you've come to the funeral and you've realized now that you can get free games. Wow, what other funerals have given you goodie bags from beyond the grave? None of them, I would warrant. But yeah, take whatever you want. Maybe sit down, play a game. It doesn't have to be all about me. You know, I'm sure you're going through lots of stuff and lots of grief, but just so you know, I lived longer than anybody expected I would with all of my enemies out there. Really. And one of them has probably found me, and yeah, it looks like an accident, but it definitely wasn't. Also, one of you here is probably the murderer, and if you can figure out who, you get an extra board game, you get an extra goodie bag on your way out. So avenge my death if you want, if it's convenient. I don't want to put too much pressure on you. I know you're all grieving. And just thanks for coming. I hope the food is good, and if it isn't, let me know. Again, just maybe somebody stick a little shrimp for me to enjoy out in the lobby, because I assume I'd be in the lobby, right? I guess people can move me around so I can participate at different areas. Anyway, thanks for coming to my funeral. And now back to the crowdfunding countdown. Perfect. We'll save that. That gets it out of the way. I didn't want it to be like a whole big deal, you know? I just wanted to have fun. And then also, side note, I do want there to be linoleum on my grave. Like probably cremate me, but like make a linoleum area in the graveyard so that people can literally dance on my grave. And I'm probably buried with millions, but yeah, my ashes are probably buried with millions. Put that on my tombstone. Chris George, buried with all of his millions. My true friends will not be digging me up because they'll know the truth. Anyway, enough of that. That was, you know, that's the reason I wanted to talk about it. You're not going to buy it. It only ships to US and Australia, and it's like $26, but have yourself a eulogy at your next game night, and then you've had the entire experience that Carked can provide. But if you are interested, check it out. That's Wednesday, September 7th at 2:52 a.m. Now, next up, we have Doomensions, which is a pop-up mystery manor, because we all still have pandemic shock and are afraid of leaving our houses. And the only way to truly enjoy a visceral escape room experience is to bring the escape room to you, with all 8 rooms of it. Ooh. We're going to switch the microphone stand because I feel it keeps on flipping. This is a really cool microphone. It's attached by a magnet. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about that in a different time. We're talking about Doomensions right now. This teeny tiny escape room pop-up manor, which provides just what you needed in your childhood dollhouse, a 5 to 10 hour murder. You hear that, Polly Pocket? The murder is about to begin. And you're the lead investigator, Polly. Find out why Mighty Max was murdered. Yeah, you sexist. Polly Pocket was the investigator the entire time. I can't operate on my son. The doctor's a woman. For shame. It is a cool idea. It's a cool idea, but it's also one where you just kind of have to take a risk, right? The premise of these things is that they say, hey, listen, we've got a really cool mystery for you, and we actually can't spoil it. Unlike an Awakened Realms game where their spoilers don't matter, these spoilers probably would matter. And so it's up to you if you feel like this pop-up book is worth 62 US, $80 Canadian, plus shipping, so it's about 76 US average, $98 Canadian average. And when you get one of these sorts of games, you always have that, well, what if we went to a real escape room? 5 to 10 hours of fun. Is that going to be worth it for 4 people or 2 people or however many people you're going to take to use this escape room, all looking at different dossiers and trying to solve the mysteries? And apparently a lot of people are into it. They've got some good quotes from some famous people who, hey, they're famous, so you might as well trust their opinion. It's raised a ton of money so far, so if you trust the opinion of all these other people who are jumping in, well, you can't all get royally screwed. It's a unique idea. It looks like it's cool, well made. So if you're interested in that, that finishes September 8th, 9:54 a.m. That's Thursday. Next up, we have a game called Camouflage, which is a pattern matching game, which I wish I could tell you how it plays, but honestly, I was too distracted by the designer's name, Rusty Lumpkin, which it feels like it has to be made up, but he's a real person. Or maybe because it just seems eerily familiar to what I call Renee, Grumpy Rumpy. It's not close at all. She's gonna be mad. She doesn't watch these, so I can probably get away with it. But this is a speed game, and it actually looks pretty fun. There are a bunch of different modules, but the main premise of the game is you'll have these cards that they're 3x3 gridded cards, with each section of the grid being a pattern of animal. And in order to get rid of a card, you have to lay one edge section on another card where they match. And if you don't like the animal patterns, you can flip it on the other side, and they've got like gems, which will make it a bit easier for some people to read it. I think I would prefer the patterns, and it's a speed game. So there's a bunch of different modes. One of the modes is get rid of all your cards. There's also a solo and cooperative mode, which feels like it would be horrible, but they have these different puzzles. I say horrible because obviously I want it to be a speed game involving both Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. And so going a little bit slower feels like it takes out the drama and the excitement of the modules. But there's a couple. There's one where you're just placing on other people's stacks and hoping they don't place it on yours as well. And it looks fun. It's $20 US, $27 Canadian, but the shipping does seem a bit high. It's in a chart at the bottom. You can click on it and they just kind of pass the buck to Fun Again Games, and they link you to what Fun Again is quoting them for shipping purposes. And I do love that also in that file that they've linked, it says, these rates are confidential, based on your individual contract, and are not to be shared outside your company. Ooh, whoops. Sorry, Camouflage. That's why you make a shipping chart. But then again, screw you, Fun Again Games. This is the exact reason why bosses don't like it when employees discuss their own salaries, because it makes it easier for them to pay less wages that way. Break the cycle. Talk about the logistics. To be completely upfront, I make 2.5 hot dogs a week, and I'm very happy with that salary. Anyway, if you are interested in Camouflage, and it does look good, I just think the shipping's a bit high, check it out. That finishes September 8th at 4 p.m. Next up, we have a game called River Trek, which bills itself as an exciting exploration for money game. And I don't know why past Chris found that funny. Present Chris doesn't find this funny. Past Chris thought that there being no exploration for anything other than money was funny. And past Chris then wanted to say, because what else would you be exploring for other than money? Well, other than my keys, I certainly can't find where those went. It's relatable humor. Present Chris thinks past Chris should get some counseling on his clear drinking problem. But this game actually looks kind of neat. It's sort of a Mancala variant where each board is going to be comprised of 3 different cards, and you're going to arrange these variably, and they're double-sided, and so you can mix and match everything so that you can't quite math out what's going to happen, because you can math it out, it's just Mancala, but this way you're figuring it out as part of the game, and you're not going to just know how it plays if it were just a static board, which I think is great. Your goal is basically you're going to get to put down these trading posts at spots along the River Trek, and then you're going to try to get your explorers to land on the trading post. And so you can add an explorer to a stack, and then you can move stacks, dropping the bottom piece off one at a time, moving up the river, and whenever you land on a spot that has a trading post, you get money for the number of people in that row times the number of your trading posts. Or if you land on a river bend, well, then you slip into the river and slip back over and over and over again to the previous river bend point. There's also little animal tokens that are variable as well, that you get special abilities, one-time use things you can use either immediately or hold on to for a later time, depending on the animal and which facet of Rob Schneider's personality it represents. And it's $15 US. It was $13 US. There's an early bird, which when I was looking at the campaign, there was one person who dropped out of that early bird, so you were able to claim it and get that $13 US price point. $7 US shipping, so you're looking at $22 US. $12 shipping to Canada, so it's like 35 Canadian to get to my door. I like it for 15. I like it for 15 a lot. I think that's the right price for this sort of thing. I think a lot of these games you'd see at the $20 price point, and the 15 feels pretty significant to me. So if you like Mancala, if that really tickles you more than any other Elmo in existence, maybe check this one out. That finishes Friday, September 9th at 2:35 p.m. Now, next up, we've got a game called Space Lions, and this one isn't funding. It's pretty far away from its goal, not percentage-wise, it's 75% funded, but it's like $10,000 that they still need to raise. So I hesitated talking about this one, but since we've got a light week, I think it actually looks pretty good, and I'm a hero to the people, I figured I might as well include it, and that way, if it does fund, I can take all the credit, which I love doing. I love credit. Well, all of those reasons, and that it is a 5-player head-to-head dueling card game. I know, I'm as speechless as Yugi. Really, it's actually more of like a quick bluffing game. You'll have 7 cards in your hand, and their strength will be from 0 to 6, and they'll also all have different abilities. And so everybody's gonna end up putting face down up to 4 cards in 3 different rows. And these are the 3 sort of laneways that you're battling in. It's usually you're battling the 2 people who are next to you, and then there's a central battle where everybody can take place. And I think this is kind of a cool way of adapting the 2-player sort of dueling system that it feels like this is more designed for, but applying it to a variety of people and keeping everybody involved so that everybody is involved at the same time, instead of something like Dice Throne, where you kind of just have to wait until it's your turn and then do your rolling and make your decisions. And so I like how that is shaped. I like the decisions that you're going to make. You're putting down these cards, and then you'll reveal them, and the person who has priority or who has the first player token gets to decide what battles are resolved when, because every battle, each character has an ability, and they can add or subtract strength, and it's basically you compare strength, and whoever has the biggest strength punches the other person in the face, and they lose hit points, as long as you've destroyed their defenses in that specific laneway. And when somebody's eliminated, then, you know, the board sort of shrinks, and you're again fighting your adjacent neighbors until it's just 2 people left. But I was really charmed by their 1-minute board game example of how a game round might play. And I can see it being fairly quick. I like the art style, and I also like that in your 7 cards, you also have like a leader card that can replace any one of the 7. And so you can switch up your deck a little bit with the special power each time you play, and there are 5 different asymmetrical factions. That also feels cool. And it's $29 US, which for a game that really is just a bunch of cards, probably too expensive, or rather is probably too expensive when you factor in the shipping, which to the US is $14, Canada is $18, so it's like 47, 43 US, 60-ish Canadian when it comes to my door, and that's just too much. But it does look quite solid, so if you're in the market for those sorts of dueling card games, which you know I love to talk about, well, it might be worth taking a look at. I think it looks neat. I really enjoy the art style, and I think it would be cool for them if they funded. So check it out. It finishes Tuesday, September 13th at 12:01 p.m. Moving along to GameFound, we have Powerline, which is the first in the new Green Planet series by Queen Games, which are all about games that will imagine a bright future for the human race and the planet. Well, I got a bright future for you, Queen Games, but I warn you, you're not gonna like it, because it involves you having actual communication with your backers and not gouging them at every turn. I honestly forget why I am upset with Queen Games at the moment, but I guarantee you that they will give me a reason to be upset with them again throughout this campaign page. If there's one thing past Chris got right, it's his bitter feud and vendetta against Queen Games for no reason. They did Thebes! They did Thebes! There was a reason. and we're not going to rehash that. I am willing to take it back, though, and put this new Green Planet initiative in a different light, because they've got a lot of great initiatives. They're trying to be carbon neutral with producing this thing, and also it's only 40 euros for what looks to be a pretty alright dice selection game. I feel really along the vein of Can't Stop, almost. You're building power lines, and you'll have a map of various power lines, and you'll roll the dice. There'll be 6 different colored dice corresponding with your 6 different colored workers, and then you'll choose which end of the workers to start with, and you have to put them on the board in sequence corresponding with their numbers, the numbers that were rolled on their colored dice. So if I had the white 6, then I could start with the white worker and put it on a 6 on a power line. But again, starting with the power lines, you have to only place on a edge of where you've started a power line previously, and continuing in that direction. So if there's a 6-3-4 power line, you better hope that the dice were rolled in a 6-3-4 arrangement. Or you can take the 6 and the 3 and then hope to get the 4 down the line in a different color. So it becomes a push and pull of how many workers you use at what time, because you can continue on in the sequence and put workers aside, but then you lose points for any worker that you didn't use effectively in building your power lines. And then also you can only use a certain number of workers a certain number of times in the 15 rounds. So if you use all 6 of your workers twice, you can never use all 6 workers again in the game, because they can only be used twice, and you'll have to use 5 workers or 2 workers or whatever. There seems like a neat sort of puzzle here, but what drives me bonkers is that you can't see the shipping information. You can see that you can pick it up at Essen, and luckily some salty person in the comments directed me to where to find it, because they said, hey, listen, I'm expecting that I will be paying $0 in shipping because you don't have it listed here. And you know where it's listed? It's listed in the More Info tiny button underneath your pledge, whichever pledge you're picking. And it's just deliberately hiding this information. It's deliberately omitting this information from the campaign page so that people forget about it, so that they pledge or are more likely to pledge for it and not realize, oh yeah, the only thing that you're getting in pre-ordering this as a stretch goal is one single tile, which serves as a catch-up mechanic, a module for whoever's in last place. You don't lose points by putting your people on the island. That's it. You just get to hold on to this tile. That's the only thing you're getting as a pre-order stretch goal. And that does not offset this shipping. And by making it so hard to find that I had to scour the comments in search of this thing to direct me to there, that they don't have anything on the FAQs, and that they have one update that's 4 sentences long. Well, Queen Games, you've done it again. You really know how to run a campaign. I also am glad that I had to search the comments section to find out if they had responded to anyone asking about shipping, which thankfully they did, and they directed them to the spot. But I did come across this great review of it that says, since there's no gameplay video or review, let me share my impressions after playing the game on Gen Con. It's a very limiting game with not exciting choices. Being a multiplayer solitaire does not help with the excitement. It's not very thematic, and for 15 rounds you basically do the same thing. Again, it was just one play, but I feel like there was nothing exciting here. Which I can also see. I'm actually kind of drawn into it, because I think it will scratch that can't stop itch from a gameplay perspective. I think the gameplay wise it looks neat, but I feel like again it's one that you kind of wait for retail. And I'd love to support it because I'd love to support this sort of green initiative, but then I'd have to be supporting Queen Games and how they run their campaigns, and well, the streak continues. Good thing I still have Thebes. Good thing I still have Thebes. But if you are interested, that's over on GameFound. That finishes September 13th at 5:30 p.m. And speaking about GameFound, there is another one that's over there that, again, is not going to fund, and this one has no chance of funding, but I thought I'd bring it up because I think it kind of looks cool, and that's a thing called Terratiles. This seems like an alright idea that barely anyone is in the market for, but if you are in the market for it, it's these 9-inch tiles. They say 9 inches by point to point, and they've got little grids on them so that you can just slap these tiles down if you ever have need of a sort of grid skirmish tactical setting. You could set up a whole board with rivers and deserts and marshlands and marsh girls and where the crawdads sing and whatever you want. Mountains. Anyway, these seem neat. The other reason I'm bringing it up is that in one of their updates, because they're not looking like they're going to fund, the creator Heath, he says, I'm probably going to just take pre-orders over on my own store. And so if you were excited about getting them, well, you've probably signed up and have signed up for the updates, but in case that sort of strikes a chord with you, there will be a chance to get them in some capacity. So go over to that campaign, look at that update, and you'll get the information that you need there. Let's move along to Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we have two campaigns finishing, the first of which is Nanolith, an RPG campaign game, where 1 to 4 awakened heroes try to retrieve their memories in a JRPG style game. The Nanolith awaits, and you can use your stress to unleash some nano-charged nano strikes, and then move forward to the campaign, RPG counseling side of things, where you can get your nanotherapist to nano-counsel you for all of the people that you've just nano-murdered. But this is a campaign page that gets me excited. If I didn't have too many campaign games already that thankfully I'm full up, I will never get to, and I can never justify purchasing another campaign game, likely in my life. If I didn't have that at my fingertips, my FOMO would very well be in full force for this one, because I love the acrylic standees. There's going to be a bunch of really cool standees in this thing. I love the credits upgrading system that's going to happen. Really, it's just a legacy game where you can use your money to upgrade your character permanently, but I think the idea of grabbing credits and then spending those on stickers to permanently upgrade yourself while at the same time leveling up, those upgrades give you different things. I think that looks really cool. I think the skills themselves, any of the leveling up part looks cool, and I think the art direction here looks really cool as well. The storybook, at least what they're showing, is you're going to read through this sort of comic book section, then you'll get to an area where you'll have different things to interact with, and then that will in turn lead you to the encounters, which will make up the meat of the game, right? These will be your scenario-based, move your 4 characters around the board and try to achieve the scenario or defeat all the baddies without losing too much health and dying. And you do have to play all 4 characters if you are interested in this game. There's no way to scale it down because the story revolves around having all 4 characters in play at all times. So I feel like if you're a solo player, this may not be the best one to look into because there's going to be a lot to manage. These 4 characters will all be asymmetrical, so even 2 players two-handing it might be a lot. Maybe this is the optimal legacy game for a 4-player group. So yeah, it looks cool. I'm reading through the rulebook. It doesn't have great flow. Honestly, I would opt more for Meeple University's How to Play that they have down there. I thought that one was really well done and helps transmit the information in the logical way that you needed. I found with the rulebook, I was kind of jumping to spots where I felt like I had missed key things that didn't really ground me while reading through it. But the basic outline of the scenario portion that doesn't deal with the RPG, which is just, checking books and solving puzzles and whatever, the encounter portion, the dungeon crawling portion, that's not really dungeon crawling, the skirmish portion is you're going to roll 5 dice, and these dice will be your action dice. Similar if you've played Dead of Winter, you're going to use a dice to do an action, but you will have to have rolled a certain number on those dice to use them. So if my punch attack is actually a 4, then I have to roll a 4 or use any dice that have the 4 on them to do that action. But what's cool about this is you can also combine dice. So if you do have a bad roll, you can at least combine them to do the thing that you want. You're just sacrificing less actions down the way, and I think that looks really cool. I think the line of sight looks horrendous, horrendously fiddly, and honestly dissipates a lot of excitement that I had for the game because I'm like, oh, this just feels like I would hate this for the majority of the time. And I would not get it, and it just would ruin my experience. The other sort of combat points, they seem like there'll be a bit of a learning curve, but you should probably grok them after a couple plays or so. You get combat value, which then allows you to roll specific combat dice, and so it's kind of these chains of things together, right? But all in for the price, it does feel pretty reasonable. And the stretch goals that they have unlocked, they've unlocked sleeves for all the cards, which seems cool. And then later on down the line, they've also unlocked all cards of plastic, which I don't know what that means, but I think it means take that, chip theory. We made our cards plastic and we gave everyone sleeves. Double protection. But the price is 80 euros or $105 Canadian, and that's what you can get. You can get this big story when you don't use minis and you use acrylic standees. Or it's 110 euros to get the extra 4 minis and 5 more acrylic tokens that represent your sort of nano shock or whatever it is. So wow, what a bargain. Everybody loves their minis, right? They do. That pledge is picked so much more than the others. And it could be because it says includes deluxe stretch goals, whereas the core box says it includes core stretch goals, which I hate when campaigns do this. I understand, because usually it's pertaining to the minis aspect, and if you don't have minis, then obviously you don't get the stretch goals for them. But this is something that I would warn you, if you are seriously interested, make sure you make a comment in their comments. I tried to scroll through to see, but I couldn't find anything. Make sure that you're very specific as to what stretch goals you're getting, because I think the stretch goals, like the sleeves and the plastic cards, potentially add a lot of value at that €80, $80 US, $105 Canadian price point. But I don't want you pledging at that price point and then getting screwed because it's all locked behind a stupid deluxe paywall. And that's the reason why nobody's going for that $80 pledge. But if you are going for that $80 pledge, the shipping is also reasonable at €10, which is great nowadays. It must be subsidized, or maybe they kind of tilted the scales to make it look good. Your total cost for this game is like €90 to get to your door, 120 Canadian, and that's a really good range for a campaign game. And for someone who's constantly shouting about horrible deals, this is definitely not one of those. You're getting a lot of length in this campaign. You're getting a setting that looks neat. The combat itself doesn't feel particularly inspired to me, but if you like that leveling up and existing in this world, and you don't have a bajillion campaign games, so that probably takes out everybody watching this channel. But maybe this is the thing that you get if you were really excited about, come on, Cyberpunk, and then we're less excited because it cost a bajillion dollars even just for the base game after shipping. Anyway, if you are interested in this one, check it out. That's Wednesday, September 14th at 9 a.m. And finally, finishing us off, it's Mini Meeple Melee. And if you don't live in the US, then just skip this because it doesn't make any sense due to the shipping. But if you do live in the US, well, you can listen because it's only $4 shipping and it's a $20 price tag. However, there is no rulebook on the campaign page. But if you do look in their updates section, you can see that they have files for free print and play that they aren't really broadcasting on the main page. And so if you click that, it goes to their store. And if you fill out the stuff in their store, they ask you for your phone number and your email address. And I said, screw you, I'm not giving you my phone number for a free print and play. I'll slog my way through this 16-minute video on a game's rule sets about a tin when you could have just included the brief descriptor on your main page. And it is very basic rules, certainly more basic than the 16-minute video suggests. And so here's what it is. You got little meeples. You got two halves of a tin. You put different terrain in it to make a battlefield that you stick together. You move your meeples around and you punch each other in the face. Or you punch each other in the face from further away with fireballs using your magic. Everybody has a different character class, everybody has a different skill level, everybody has a different starting HP, and you can use your skills and your punching to be the last person standing. That's it. How do you punch people? You roll dice and you see if you do it. Don't forget, the different terrain means different movement points. And when you travel over the tin, make sure that you use extra movement or extra range because it represents the great tin chasm which so many meeples have been lost in. Anyway, it's $20 US, $4 shipping. It's basically $15 shipping to get anywhere else. And I personally don't really care for pocket games. Even the Mintworks, which I went and I looked at their last Kickstarter, they were offering it, I think, for $10 US for a little mint tin. I don't necessarily care for these sorts of pocket games because I'm not likely to carry the games around in my pocket. I never find I have the opportunity to pull something out of my pocket and play something. But if you do, that's great. I just never had that opportunity, so I've never really looked for those in my games. And also because I'm self-conscious about being a board game pusher, since it represents my entire personality right now, and so I try not to come across too strong at pushing board games and really let them come to me, basically. I was talking with Renee today, and she said, she was filling out a questionnaire and said, like, what's your hobbies? She said, what's your hobby to me? I said, board games. She said, anything else? I said, nope. She said, but that's your job. And I went, yep. I guess I don't have any hobbies. Because board games are an ever-consuming giant that take up every waking hour of every day. Anyway, that also finishes Wednesday at that time down there that I didn't write down in my notes. So that's it. That's it for the week. Every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you, the pick for me being the thing that I'm the most interested in, the pick for you being something that I think isn't a horrible back or what you should buy so that I can come over and play it. Or if you back it, I hope you enjoy, or it's just a pick for you, okay? I'm just picking something for you, and if you do get it, I hope you like it, but if you don't like it, I'm not responsible, all right? You should have picked a better week. Anyway, I do have a pick for me and a pick for you this week. The pick for me is going to be Camouflage, probably because of its speed nature. I like Dutch Blitz. I don't know if I would ever play this over Dutch Blitz, to be fair, but I think the design of it is really simple. River Trek was honestly close, and I did not expect that from the campaign page as well. But again, Mancala breaks my brain, so I can't make that my pick for me. But Camouflage, yeah, the aspect of doing this speed game, matching, there seems to be a lot of care in the project in terms of the different sides of things, making sure it's colorblind accessible, making sure there is a solo mode and a co-op mode for people to enjoy it in different ways. I mean, I think I would enjoy it less that way, but you know, you might enjoy it more. So I think there's a lot of care that's been involved in Camouflage. And so that's why I am interested in highlighting it. So it would be my pick for me. And my pick for you is going to be Nanolith. It is going to be Nanolith. If you were thinking about getting it and were on the fence, I mean, it looks good to me. I don't want to enable you to go down this 50 to 60 hour campaign that you're only going to play 2 to 3 hours of, and then it's going to sit on your shelf forever as this looming menace called Aetherfields that you just need to get back to the table before Aetherfields Wave 2 arrives, and then Iridia arrives, and oh god, why aren't you playing Tainted Grail? You need to have some coverage on Tainted Grail coming up very, very soon, as I'm sure many people can relate to. But I think for the price, for what you get, it feels like a reasonable price. It feels like a price from a few years ago, honestly, with the shipping combined into the actual price. As long as they're able to maintain that, feels like this is a nice analysis and a nice bar, right? Like, that's fairly reasonable for the amount of hours that you're going to get out of that campaign. And I think doing the acrylic standees is a good thing to do. It's going to cut down on cost, but keep it a little bit fancy. And the world seems really cool. Again, like I said, I like the art direction, but more it's the cost sort of evaluation combined with what looks to be a pretty decent system. I think really do look into it in detail. Again, that combat system didn't feel that inspired to me. I would hesitate just jumping in, right? I don't need to put this many disclaimers. You're all smart people. You're not going to just crave and crumble to the FOMO now that, you know, the only person on the internet who says, well, think about buying things, you know, responsibly, is telling you to buy this thing. Yeah, I'm sure none of you would do that. But yeah, Nanolith, it looks good. It looks really cool. That would be my pick for you as well. So that's it for the week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully this microphone was okay. Let me know if it wasn't. I'll futz around with it in post to see. There was times where it was kind of flipping and pointing into my chest, so it might have dulled there, but hopefully not. Thank you so much for being here. As always, let me know what you're excited about coming up, especially coming up because there's a bunch of stuff launching tomorrow. So let me know if you got your eye on any of those so that I can make sure to have my eye on them. Did I forget one this week? Oh, I hope not. No, I think that's next week. One of my patrons sent me a message saying, hey, make sure to check this out and include it. And if I forgot it, it would just be the worst person in the world. But I think it finishes on September 17th, so that'll be next week's. I think I'm in the clear. And if I'm not, well, I'm sorry. And I will include it as an addendum to next week's episode. Anyway, my name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. And I will see you the next time it's time to rag on Queen Games. Bye!